So on this video, we're going to be talking about the opposite of the last video. In the last video, we talked about the distributive property or expanding. This time, we're going to be talking about factoring, which is literally going backwards of that. So you may have an expression that looks like this. Let's see, 16 minus 4b. And then you realize there is something that can be divided out of both these numbers that they have in common. This is a B, not a 6. I might have changed the letter. My handwriting is suffering today. I'm going to put C. Okay, so there's no confusion about what that is. So anyhow, if you think about it, this term can be divided by 2, and so can this term. And then you can also realize that they actually can both be divided by 4. So you can factor out a 2, you can factor out a 4, but the idea is, what number is a factor of both those terms, right? So we have 2 terms here, and 4 is the highest factor, or 2. You could use 2 as well. So let's try to do that. So if you write that factor that lives inside both numbers, and then you open the parentheses, okay? So it's starting to look like what we did last video. It's the opposite of it. And then you divide each of the terms by that factor. 16 divided by 4 is 4. And so we write that on the inside. And then 4c, or negative 4c, divided by 4 is going to be negative c. And so you can actually have a factored version of that. To know if you did this right, you can just try to go backwards. What is 4 times 4? Well, that's 16. So that looks good. And what is 4 times negative c? Oh, that's negative 4c. So that also looks good. And so that's how you factor. You literally just write the expression and pull out what's in common, the factor that lives inside both of the terms. So let's try to do another one of these, right? So let's see if we do negative 2, so a new problem here, negative 2a plus 16b. So if you look at these 2 terms, what number or letter, variable, because you can do variables, we'll do an example of that next, lives in both terms? Well, 2 does. So I pull the 2 outside, and then I ask myself, what is negative 2a divided by that 2 that I left on the outside? Well, it's going to be negative a. What about that 16 that's on the outside? Well, 16b divided by 2, it's 8b. So I can just do plus 8b. And that's it. We did it. Now, what would have happened if you had the same problem, but you have both terms negative? Because that happens sometimes. You could have that happen. Okay, so what I would do if that was the case, instead of pulling the negative 2 to 2, I would pull negative 2. And then I will have a plus 16b on the inside. And you can check that. Negative 2 times a, negative 2a. Negative 2 times 8b, negative 16b. So it works out. And so, by the way, you can also factor out a variable. It is possible that sometimes that will happen. So, for example, if you had 8b minus 4ab, and you're trying to factor that out, well, you can notice that the b is in both terms, but so is the 4. You can find a 4 and a b on both terms. So I'm going to write 4b outside. 8b divided by 4b is just 2. And then 4ab divided by 4b is just negative 4ab is just negative a. And again, you can check if you can go back to the start. Negative 4b times 2 is 8b. Negative 4b times negative a. 4b times negative a makes negative 4ab. And so you can go backwards, which means you factored it right. Factoring is basically finding the term that's in both, finding the factor that's in both terms, writing outside, and then dividing both terms by it to write it in a factored version that can be then expanded back to make sure you did it right. And that's all there is to it. See you in the next video.